All right. Hello, everybody. Another weekend of your summer has come and gone, so let's be miserable together. Now, on second thought, cheer up because it's time to sweat. The Sweat is DraftKings' nightly fantasy and sports betting show. My name is Brendan Glasheen. Hope you can stand me for the next 60 minutes. I know many of you are excited about Week 1 NFL salaries being released over the weekend. We'll get to those. We'll preview the upcoming Wyndham Championship, plus Twins second baseman Jonathan Schoop and Mike Francesa, our guests joining the show. We're going to start baseball, so we welcome in DK Live's James McCool and Matt LaMarca of the Action Network. A lot of teams off today, just a 7-game night slate, guys, but want to start quickly about a trade in Major League Baseball. Jason Vargas traded to the Phillies from the New York Mets. James, your knee-jerk reaction to this deal, and how do you like the fit for the Phils?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult. Like, we have Jason Vargas, who is a pretty home run prone pitcher going into one of the best offensive parks in the league, and it's going to really exasperate his home run rates. He's been better this year, which is really surprising considering he's been a contact pitcher the majority of his career, and he comes into the home run era of the juice ball and ends up having a little bit of success. So I don't know, maybe he can continue it. Maybe he's really nailed down what he needs to do to be successful. But I think that the transfer from kind of more of a neutral park to a really offensive park is going to hurt him pretty bad.
LaMarca, your thoughts on Vargas to the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that ideally you want to just have eat up some regular season innings for you. He throws the slowest fastball in the league this season, but he is generating the 15th lowest average exit velocity in terms of StatCast data. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's not a guy, again, I don't think the Phillies are going to want to rely on him if they make it to the playoffs. But as far as fixing up the back end of your rotation to maybe get you to the playoffs, I think Vargas is a slight upgrade for them there.
All right, good stuff. Both teams are off today, so no need to worry. They are not going to impact the 7-game slate. So let's go to MLB over-under. We're going to ask these guys if they think the following players or teams will go over or under the following totals. We'll go to James first. Patrick Corbin has the highest strikeout total on DraftKings Sportsbook tonight, 7.5 against the Braves. Corbin faced these Bravos 10 days ago, James, and he punched out 7. So is the under the way to go?
Yeah. I think that over is probably better here. Patrick Corbin has the second highest K per 9 right now over the last month. He's at 11.61. He's really found his stride. Earlier in the season, he did have those walk issues that we kind of worried about, but at this point, it seems like he's reined in his control and he's putting the ball in place a little bit better over the plate. And the Braves, while they do have a massive slugging percentage, they have the highest xSlug on this slate as a team, and they also have the third highest xWOB on the slate. They also have the second highest strikeout rate at 46.12% win in a 2-strike count, which is massive. It really helps Patrick Corbin reach those strikeout numbers. So I think that 7.5, while high, I think it's entirely attainable here. He's going to give up a home run or two, but I also think that he strikes out 8 or 9.
All right, so James is going over 7.5. LaMarca, your thoughts on Patrick Corbin for the strikeout total?
Yeah, I'm going to take a slight under here. And like James said, this is a great spot for Corbin in terms of his strikeout upside. We have the Braves projected lineup right now as having a 34.4% strikeout rate against left-handers over the past 12 months. So if he goes deep into this game, he should be able to pile up plenty of strikeouts. I'm just slightly concerned about how deep he'll actually be able to pitch. The Braves can hit. They're implied for roughly 4.5 runs tonight in a tough matchup against Corbin. So I don't necessarily think that he gets to, 7 innings pitched in this start. And if he only goes 6 or fewer, it's tough for me to see him getting to the 8 strikeouts necessary. So I'll take a slight under here, but certainly wouldn't be surprised if he went over it either.
All right, on to a hot hitter, Lourdes Gurriel. He's got a hit total set at 1.5 tonight. He's logged back-to-back multi-hit games, and tonight Gurriel faces Royals righty Brad Keller. LaMarca, you like Gurriel's chances to go over 1.5 hits and keep racking them up?
So I'm going to be boring and pessimistic here. I mean, this is still baseball, right? Like, if a guy gets a hit in 3 out of every 10 at bats, we consider him an all-star. So
Right.
Asking a guy to get 2 hits in a game for the 3rd straight game is just a big ask. I'm pretty much always going to take the under on these just because, I am boring like that. But if you are going to bet on a guy to do it, Gurriel's the kind of guy. He doesn't like to walk. So the majority of his plate appearances are going to end with a ball in play. But I just can't bank on him getting a multi-hit game for the 3rd straight.
James, can you provide optimism?
I might be a little bit more optimistic than LaMarca. I'm like him. A lot of the time on hitting props and home run props, I'm going to take no as the answer just because statistically it doesn't make sense to be laying too much money on spots like that. But if you are going to take one, I agree with LaMarca that Lourdes is one of the guys who's going to be able to get there. Brad Keller doesn't miss a lot of bats. I do expect the Blue Jays to have plenty of balls in play here. He has the lowest K per 9 over the last month, 6.19. But again, the Blue Jays are pretty bad. They might get a little bit of extra boost from Bichette, and I think that Vlad Jr. and his increased production lately is going to help. But I don't know. I'd rather take the under, but I do think that in terms of DFS, that Lourdes has a good chance. I think he has like 5 at bats here to get there.
Now for a team over-under, Tigers and Angels have a combined run total set at an over-under of 10.5. Makes some sense since Jordan Zimmerman and Jaime Barria are the starting pitchers. Both have ERAs over 6, so this is an easy over, right, James?
No, it's not an easy over, and it's not an easy over because the Tigers suck, dude. Like, I'm not sure that the Tigers are going to put up more than 2 or 3 runs here, and that kind of puts it on the Angels, a.k.a. Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, to put up all 10 runs by themselves. And as much as Jordan Zimmerman is terrible, and the Tigers' bullpen is really, really bad, it's the 3rd worst bullpen on this slate in terms of slugging percentage allowed, I don't really like to depend on one team to go over 10 runs. If they're not the Yankees or the Astros or the Braves, I'd rather just take the under.
LaMarca, easy over, or am I crazy?
I'm pretty much in agreement with James. The one thing I'll add is I don't feel great about Jaime Barria. I know that he is going to be like one of the most popular pitching options tonight on DraftKings, and I just don't see it. The guy's ceiling is basically 5 innings pitched, and maybe he can get you a strikeout per inning. I have no interest in playing that guy at what will likely be high ownership. Can the Tigers hit righties? Not at all. I'd probably roster myself if I was facing the Tigers. But at the same time, like, this is a bad spot just in terms of ownership for Barria. So will the Tigers score against him? Probably not. But I'm not willing to take that risk on in DFS at 30+% ownership.
Sonny Gray has sort of resurrected his career with the Reds. He hasn't struck out less than 7 hitters in a full month. DK Sportsbook has Gray locked in at 6.5 Ks tonight for his matchup with the Pirates. Matt, back to you. Over or under 6.5 punch-outs for Sonny Gray against Pittsburgh?
I'm going to take the under here as well. Pittsburgh really not playing good baseball at the moment. I think they've lost 8 straight games, maybe 7 straight games, but they still are not terrible against right-handed batters. Even if you want to look over the past week when they've been so bad, they're still middle of the pack in terms of WRC plus against right-handers, and they don't strike out very much against right-handers. So I think that Sonny Gray, while he has had a nice little resurrection here with the Reds, it's still not a spot that I think is great for him. So I will take the under.
LaMarca has under. James?
Yeah, I'm going to take the under as well. The Pirates have the 3rd lowest strikeout or adjusted strikeout rate on this slate. In this split, they've got a 321 xWOBA, which is okay, but not great. And, I think that Sonny Gray in this spot up against the Pirates, where they usually play in PNC Park, which is an extreme pitcher's park, and they're coming into Cincinnati, which is a top 5 hitters park on the year. I just think that this is a spot where Sonny Gray, as good as he has been and as good as the Reds have been, honestly, at turning around pitching careers. I mean, you look at a couple of the guys on that staff have been having really, really good years. I just don't want to take Sonny Gray at kind of like the peak of where he's been this year up against a team that doesn't strike out much, getting a really big jump in park factor. I'd much rather take the under.
All right, dudes, thanks a lot. James and Matt are going to return later on in the program to break down the Dodgers-Rockies showdown contest, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, here is our own Reed Fowler, who previews Sedgefield Country Club, home of this week's Wyndham Championship.
How's it, golf fans? Reed Fowler with the last tournament before the FedEx Cup playoffs, the Wyndham Championship, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Sedgefield Country Club will play as a par 70 and measure a touch over 7,100 yards. The guys should also be used to the greens this week, which will again be played on Bermuda. The field is unsurprisingly not strong. Most guys are taking the week off to rest, or if you're Sergio, you're digging up another tee box with another temper tantrum. Just take a beat, Sergio. Shane Lowry and other top golfers are skipping the Wyndham, but there are a couple of guys like Paul Casey, the only golfer ranked inside the top 10, who will be joined with other popular names like Patrick Reed, Billy Horschel, and Hideki Matsuyama. The Sedgefield course horses will be here like Webb Simpson and recent winner Brandt Snedeker, who's looking to join Davis Love III as the only other three-time champ since 2000. We're also going to hear a lot of chatter about the Bubble Boys, or the golfers on the bubble looking to qualify for the FedEx Cup playoffs. In the last 12 years since the FedEx Cup playoffs began, an average of just under 3 players have gained a last chance playoff spot in Greensboro. Players like Martin Keimer, Jamie Walker, Zach Johnson, and even Jordan Spieth, who's on the bubble to qualify for the second leg of the playoffs, are fighting to put themselves in the right position. Wyndham should be an easy test of golf this week. In 2018, Sedgefield recorded the second most eagles and 6th most birdies on tour, most of them coming off those par 5s, seeing 91% of eagles at this tournament in just those 2 holes. This is a vintage Ross course with fairly easy to hit fairways, but smaller than average undulating greens, which are fast this week. Every Donald Ross course will call for an absolute clinic with your iron, so strokes gain approach, especially until those par 5s are key, as well as guys who do well around the greens. A player I like this week is Victor Hovland. With Wolf and Morikawa notching their first victories very early on in their careers, Hovland will be itching to do well this week and join his fellow rookies in the winner's circle on a course he can absolutely dominate. His putting has been atrocious, and he's had a couple of weeks to get it right after a 16th place a couple of weeks ago at the John Deere. But over the last 24 rounds, he's 19th in strokes gained par 5, 2nd in opportunities gained, and 4th in strokes gained approach.
Thanks to Reed for his consistent hard work. He's plenty versatile as well. He can talk American football. So can Jeff Ulrich. These two had plenty of weekend homework with golf and studying up DraftKings' release of Week 1 NFL salaries. Let's get Reed and Jeff's initial reactions using NFL Price Check, who is overpriced, who's underpriced, and we'll throw a little question at the end as well. Reed, of all players, who stands out to you as most overpriced for Week 1?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Todd Gurley. I sort of went the easy route with this one just because of the uncertainty of, what really that offense is going to be. There's some reports that are coming out that, if you want to believe it, that his production is not going to falter too much, right? It's not going to go down too much, but this has to be the case. I mean, look what he did last year towards the end, or just the entire season. He was used so much early on in the season, even against the Lions, which is the Week 1 matchup that he has this season. I mean, he was used a ton. You got to think that production is going to go down. So at 7,900, and I also think that Darrell Henderson and the other guys in that backfield are underpriced because of that. But at that price tag, I just can't. With all the uncertainty and then the Week 1 salaries that are all out, everyone is playing. There's no buys. I think you can go elsewhere with your RB1 there.
Jeff, your most overpriced player for Week 1.
Yeah, I'm going to take Amari Cooper for this question. And, there's probably a few other players in worse fantasy games, I guess, if you just look at the game totals. But I just don't like this for Amari Cooper. There's a couple reasons why. First of all, the Giants are just not an exciting team for fantasy purposes. They're going to play with Saquon Barkley. They're going to try and slow things down this year. And the Cowboys and the Giants have met each of the past 4 years. In the last 3 years, the totals of those games have been under 40 points. So they have not been exciting fantasy games. You also look at the matchup for Amari Cooper. He's probably going to see a lot of Janoris Jenkins. I just don't like paying $7,000 for Cooper, who has been a bit of like a hit or miss target his entire fantasy career. I think this is way overpriced for Week 1. So it's a first impression, but Amari Cooper looks overpriced to me.
All right, Gurley and Cooper. Good stuff. Well, Jeff, we'll go back to you now. Please tell us who is the most underpriced player for Week 1.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Kyler Murray. I mean, you just look at this. We could talk on and on about the player, obviously. You're talking about a quarterback with 4.4 or faster speed. He's probably going to rack up a ton of rushing yards in the NFL. And you just look at who he's priced around. You have basically pocket passers, non-accurate passers. I just think that the upside with Kyler Murray starting from week one is going to be immense. And if you fall into that camp where you think Kyler Murray is going to bring top 5 upside every week, $5,600 is just too cheap. Going up against Detroit week one, who's actually kind of a faster paced team last year under Matt Patricia. The Matt Patricia defense doesn't really scare me either. I think this is actually a pretty good spot for Kyler Murray to start off with. He's way too cheap week one.
The number 1 overall pick is underpriced. How about that? Reed?
Yeah, so I got to amend. Gurley is not playing, obviously, the Lions. That's going to be Arizona, but Gurley is going against Carolina. Run defense wasn't that good. But if you look at the underpriced guys, this kind of goes with the injuries of what we're talking about. And I think Tyler Boyd, right, at this price tag, now that he steps into this wide receiver 1 role, and a lot of people are going to say, hey, look, with A.J. Green out last year, Tyler Boyd wasn't as good as when he was on the field, Green that is. And if you just look at that a little bit deeper, a little bit closer, the teams that he faced, the secondaries that he faced towards the end when Green was out, 4 of them were in the top 10 in pass DVOA. And so he faced the top defenses. And the Saints, from the first half of the season to the second half, were extremely different in terms of their secondary. So Tyler Boyd, who comes out, gets paid, clearly isn't a new offense. It's not going to be Marv Lewis anymore. I know Mixon's numbers will go up, but give me Tyler Boyd. He ran close to 75% of his routes out of the slot. That's a money spot against Seattle. And their secondary, not that good. So give me Tyler Boyd at that price tag. I love it.
Sort of a similar discussion to underpriced. So before we wrap, Reed, how about a long shot, a player who's listed super cheap but has a chance to be a week 1 difference maker in lineups?
Yeah, it's Marquise Goodwin for me. I think when you look at the things that have changed from last season to this season, Marquise Goodwin, not a lot has changed. Yes, the 49ers have brought in some new guys with the draft, right? And Deebo Samuel, Jalen Hurd. So that does scare people off. But in both DFS and season long, they're going against the Buccaneers. And again, a team that necessarily hasn't made a ton of changes in the secondary. They bring in Bruce Arians. This just screams a shootout to me. And you just look at his target share, and you look at the amount of yards per target that Goodwin had in 2017, those 4 or 5 games, the secondary or the second part of the season. He was absolutely amazing. I get the Dante Pettis hype. We now see that some injuries in that backfield are coming through. I just think this is going to be a shootout. At $4,000, all he needs to get you is 3 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. That pays off.
Jeff, who is your long shot?
Similar kind of idea. I'm going to go DJ Chark from the Jacksonville Jaguars. You just look at this matchup, and any time that you have a team playing the Chiefs, their offense has to be considered. And I'm pretty interested in what the Jags are going to do this year with Nick Foles coming in. They have a lot of interesting receivers, and Chark is definitely at the top of that list for me. I mean, this is a 6'4", sub 4'4" guy. I mean, who obviously they drafted him really high this year, but he's already been working with the starters in preseason. He's got all the talent in the world. And you look at the cornerbacks, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then you look at the talent of DJ Chark. It would not shock me if this guy got off to a real fast start in what is potentially like the shootout of the week here. So I think DJ Chark at 3,300, lots of upside for week 1, or potential upside.
Thanks to Reed and Jeff. Hope you all took notes. And again, we've got more than a month to really chew and figure out what we want to do with these week 1 salaries. So a lot of time, but some good opening thoughts. I've hyped up the versatility this duo provides. Reed and Jeff are going to change and put their golf caps on. We're discussing the Wyndham Championship next.
Hey, what's going on? Tara Lenizak in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Last night, the New York Mets kicked off the trade deadline excitement by acquiring Marcus Stroman from the Toronto Blue Jays for pitching prospects Anthony Kay and Simeon Woods. The 28-year-old has gone 6-11 with the Blue Jays this year, but has a solid 2.96 ERA and was an all-star for the first time in his career this season. A Long Island native, Stroman took to Twitter to express his excitement on heading back to his roots, saying, "New York, where I was born, where my heart lies, where my family resides. Crazy excited for this part of my journey. Some things were meant to be." The deal comes as a bit of a surprise, as most of the chatter surrounding the Mets leading up to the trade deadline has been that they'll be sellers. Pitchers Zach Wheeler and Noah Syndergaard have been the subject of trade rumors for the last month. Syndergaard even changed his Twitter bio to say, "Pitcher for the New York Mets. For now, Mrs. Met would hate to see me traded." This likely isn't the only move we'll see the Mets make before Wednesday's deadline, so stay tuned.
No need for introductions, same host, same panel, just a different sport. Ulrich and Fowler back to chat golf. Time for PGA. For better or worse, should these golfers' odds for this week's Wyndham Championship be better or worse? 2018's winner was Brandt Snedeker. For 2019, he only has the 8th best odds at plus 2,800 to win it back-to-back. Should that number be better or worse, Reed?
I think it's spot on. I think when you look at, and I'll let Jeff tell the joke that he wants to tell with when you talk about these course horses here with Webb and then also with Brandt Snedeker. Look, these guys have played extremely well over here, and I'll talk about someone in the long shot, the long shots question that we have. That this course has been played here over the last, I think, 10 or so years, or 8 to 10 years, and these guys just absolutely take apart this course. So with Brandt Snedeker, look, he's been playing half decent, since they're coming into this tournament. And so at plus 2,800, like the guy that I like, you heard on the course preview there, is Victor Hovland, around the same price tag. Because when we look at Snedeker, his approach game, which is usually where he shines, it's in the hundreds over the last 24 rounds. And even recently, it's like 125th on tour right now. And that's not going to cut it here. Give me Victor Hovland, par 5 scoring, strokes-gained approach, opportunities gained, all top marks for him. So I get why it should be here. I like it, but give me Victor Hovland instead.
Jeff, you in agreement with Reed, kind of right on the money, or a little different here with the 2,800?
It's hard to make an argument against Snedeker, like with him being longer in odds. The guy shot 59 on this course, and I mean, you just look at his course history. Even before last year, he was top 10ing this event every year. He's actually not in that bad form too. He's 14th in approaches last week, and he's first in around the green stats. I mean, those are kind of the things you want to see trending when you come into a course like Sedgefield. So, yeah, this is probably pretty fair value. The course, or the field this year, is stronger, I would say, as a whole. So you have guys like Hovland coming in. Spieth is playing this year. So I think from that perspective, you can make an argument that it's kind of easy to bypass Snedeker, because are you really going to see that kind of fire again from him? And for him to take down this stronger sort of top-end field, it seems a little bit more of a long shot. But, when you go back on the course history in his recent form, I don't have a problem with these odds at all. It's pretty fair.
The favorite for the 2019 Wyndham Championship is Webb Simpson, plus 1,100 to win it. Simpson finished second at the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational this past weekend. Jeff, you a fan of his odds at 1,100?
I mean, I'm not a fan of betting Webb Simpson because, quite frankly, like his win rate over the past 3 years really hasn't been that great. I mean, he's got the Players Championship from last year, and that's about it. Now, that being said, his record at this venue and event is sterling. I mean, he named his daughter Wyndham Rose, to give you an example of how much he likes this event. So, I mean, his last 5 years, he's finished T6 or better in 4 of those 5 appearances, just to give you an example. Solo T2 last year to Snedeker, and then you just look at what he did last week. He actually almost chased down Brooks Koepka. He's in great form. He deserves to be the favorite. It sounds strange, Webb Simpson the betting favorite in a field that actually has some pretty big names like Hideki Matsuyama and Jordan Spieth in it. But course history, everything. Again, these odds are fair. I'm not going to bet Webb Simpson at this price personally, but would not shock me if he won this week. He's really trending towards it.
Reed, should Simpson's odds be better or worse?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these, this is the last tournament before the FedEx Cup playoffs, and so a lot of these guys are taking off. But to Jeff's point, I think there are some like Paul Casey, Hideki, Patrick Reed, who are in the tournament to either better their position in this first leg or even their second leg, and that's why Jordan Spieth's in the field. But when you look at Webb at the top here, it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of how well he's done. He's number 1 in strokes gained total since 2014 at this course, Brandt Snedeker being number 2. And like, how can you? And he's got a second place runner-up where he almost took down the best player in golf for the last 16 to 18 months. And so, absolutely, his odds should be here. But to Jeff's point, give me someone who's at double his odds at plus 2,300 in Patrick Reed. You look at just the stats and how he's won or how he's done well over his career. It's usually in these summer months. This is when we get Patrick Reed at a decent price. This field, it is still strong in the sense that it has some names, but it's not strong enough. I mean, Patrick Reed has won the Masters. I mean, Hideki, yes, when you talk about win equity, Hideki hasn't won since the 2017 Bridgestone. But I mean, when you look at just win equity in this higher, everyone below 2,800, Patrick Reed sticks out. Give me him. Par 5 scoring is fantastic. Par 4 scoring between 400 to 450 yards is fantastic. Approach is there. Around the green, he is the around the green guy. So Patrick Reed more so. But yeah, is his odds, Webb's odds, should be at the top here.
Hey, let's talk about winless Jordan Spieth. You heard that right. No wins on the season for Spieth. He's got the 5th best odds, though, to win Wyndham at plus 1,800. Should Spieth's odds be better or worse? Back to you, Reed.
Yeah, I mean, they should be better. But again, there's a handful of guys that we know, or that just the casual bettor will know. Jordan Spieth is probably the most popular person in this field. Is he the best? Absolutely not. I mean, we've seen that so far this season. So I'm not going to bet him at this number at plus 1,800. It's not going to get any better than this at any book you go to. At plus 1,800 on Sportsbook, that's completely within the realm of, outcomes. But just take a look at what he's done in the past. Not that great. Having said that, from a DFS perspective, it's way better, because if you look at his finishes, you look at his score at this tournament back, I think in 2012 or 13, he shot 3 rounds in the 60s. 2 of 65, and so he can go low at this course. I mean, this is what he's been able to do. He's done well on a par 70 at this distance in the season so far. That's where we saw his run of like top 5s or top 10s. So I can definitely see Spieth being there from a DFS perspective, but at plus 1,800, no way.
Okay, Jeff, so if I heard correctly, I think Reed said they probably should be better. What about you?
No, they should be higher. I mean, look, to be honest, his odds should be double this week. You're paying the Jordan Spieth premium at this price. You're paying a premium because it's Jordan Spieth, a 3-time major winner, someone who everyone knows, and some people just will bet blindly. This is not the odds he should be at. His ball striking is nowhere near where it needs to be. It's nowhere near what some of the other top players are. He's 50th and off the tee. He's 34th in approaches last week, and it's been consistently losing strokes, ball striking, for months now. I mean, we all know this is an issue. So this is a Jordan Spieth type venue, but we've seen him not be able to get it done at other Jordan Spieth type venues, like the Travelers where he missed the cut. Colonial, he played okay, but it was all done through putting. There's so many other players underneath him with better value, in my opinion, who just have a better shot at winning that I can't even list them all. So do I like these odds? Absolutely not. I wouldn't touch him at this price. Doesn't mean he can't come in and find something, but it's just from a research and pre-event perspective, I wouldn't touch this. No chance.
Moving on to some of the guys with longer odds. See Matthew Wolff, for example, plus 5,000 to win Wyndham. Wolff took home the 3M Open Trophy, if you remember, just a few weeks ago. Jeff, you like this number for Wolff this week?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, it's Matthew Wolff is playing fine. We saw the talent. There's no doubt about it that he can get it done at the PGA level, and he's probably going to win a lot more tournaments. But this has been a venue where we've seen players with experience pay off, and you saw that with Brad Snedeker. You see that with Webb Simpson every year. It's Matthew Wolff's first time coming in. His odds are getting down there to the point where you're not necessarily getting like a great bargain like you were when you won in Minnesota. So at this price range, there are a few other players like Lucas Glover, Martin Keimer, guys who have played and gone low at Sedgefield before. This is also a venue where Wolff's power off the tee probably isn't going to play as big a factor. So that's always something to consider. Again, it's not terrible odds for Matthew Wolff. It's not like you're paying the huge premium with Jordan Spieth, but you're starting to pay a little bit of a premium. And at this event, I still like other players better in the odds at his range.
Reed, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength as Jeff. And just to sort of dovetail off of what he was saying, guys in that price range, I think Martin Keimer is one that sticks out to me the most. When you look at just how he's been playing recently, we talked about it during the Open Championship that we wanted Keimer to be in because of his recent form was getting to a point where he was going to be a solid bet. And I think here, when you look at his number at the same as Wolff, he's coming in with experience. He shot low scores here in the past. He has experience here, and he's shot in the low 60s at Sedgefield. And so he's coming into form. But even other guys like Joaquin Niemann, if you want guys more in recent form, I think Joaquin Niemann, again, is there as well. So give me those two guys more so.
All right, gents, we look forward to more breakdown and analysis of the Wyndham Championship. Reed and Jeff will have more all this week. They'll continue to keep me company. Another NFL team preview is ready. Who is the panel's favorite Denver Bronco to win team MVP? Find out after Jesse Cofield chats with Twins infielder Jonathan Schoop.
Welcome back to The Sweat, where we have a very special guest joining us, Jonathan Schoop of the Twins. Jonathan, thanks for making the time to join us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. Well, the Twins are sitting in first place in the AL Central, 31 wins on the road, second most in the AL. What's been the key to keeping things so consistent in Minnesota and on the road?
I think we have a really good group of guys. We have good leadership, and everybody like to be around each other. Everybody like to be around each other. We like to come to the field and and see each other talk with each other and go out there and compete and trying to win a ball game.
Well, the Twins are third in MLB in runs and have the second best team average in the majors. Why is this offense so dangerous?
You see from 1 to 9, everybody contributing, and from one to the bench, everybody can do damage, and everybody is capable to do something. This lineup is really deep, and this team is really deep. Like we got contribute from guys from AAA and guys coming up and do the good job. So this team we never give up. We can be down 5 runs, we come back and we score.
Well, the trade deadline is coming up. You were traded at the deadline last season to Milwaukee. What was that experience like?
It was different. I've been with the team for a long time, and then I got traded. It's like you feel like it really happened. Like you got traded, and it's like, oh, you don't believe it until you get there. When you get there, it feel like you walk into a new class, like a new school. You play against those guys, and you know a couple. So, but when you walk in there, it's like you walk into a new school, something new, and then you got to get used with it. And it wasn't bad. We went to the playoff too. We fell short with the Dodgers. It was a good experience, and it got me better. It got me better player than I am this year.
Well, after the season, you signed as a free agent in Minnesota. I mean, what about the Twins made it a good spot for you?
I feel like it was a good. I feel like it was a good fit. Good fit. The rocket to the new manager. I feel like I feel really good in this team. And the group, the guys that we have, good talent guys. And then we had Nelson Cruz, Marvin, and Cron. So it was a team that I want to come here and trying to win the ball game that we're doing right now, and trying to have fun and compete, and trying to go to the playoffs.
Well, an event coming up shortly is the Little League World Series. You played in it with Curacao in 03-04. How important was that experience for you?
I wish I can go back. The Little League World Series is fun, really fun. I think my career began there, and because they started making believe you're a big leaguer over there. So they got interview after the game. The bed is good, you sleep. You got a game where they treat you like a big leaguer. It was really good. Good experience. A lot of people come watch the game, and fans screaming. It was fun, and we went 2003. We fell short in 2004. We won it all, and it was the best game. It was one of the best time of my life.
Now, you also represented the Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic in 2013 and in 2017. Has that event been good for baseball on a world scale?
Yes, it is. I think I kind of believe in myself when I went to 2013, when I went to WBC, because I feel like you play against a lot of big leaguer, and I was in AAA I think that year, and then I did pretty good. I had some couple of home runs, and the team I think we lost against Dominican. And you play all these guys in the big league, so you kind of believe in yourself a little bit more. And especially for the young guys, if they have a chance to go. It's good for you to go. And, for me, it helped me a lot and make me believe in myself a little bit. And, when I got back, AAA, I played good, and then I got called up that year.
So you signed with Baltimore as an international free agent of Curacao in 2008. Now MLB is thinking of starting an international draft. Are you a supporter of that idea?
International draft? I don't know how it will work out. But the internet shine is good because you go to try out, and I don't know. Maybe the draft can get better because they have to draft more guys. Because sometimes you go to try out, you got to be lucky enough, and you got to be good enough for the eyes to catch you. Because a lot of good guys out there. It's a lot of good guys, so you got to impress them. So sometimes it's tough to impress people.
All right, now we're going to have you give out some superlatives for your teammates. So who on the team is the best dresser?
Best dresser? Mm-hmm. You want me to be honest?
Mm-hmm.
Best dresser. I think Nelly. I think Nelly's the best dresser, I think.
Okay, this one's a little harder. What about worst hair?
Worst hair? So no.
Best taste in music?
Say it again?
Best taste in music.
Best taste in music, me.
Oh, okay. That was an easy one. What about Clubhouse Clown, who's always cracking jokes?
Clubhouse Clown. We have a lot. But I think Astudillo is the one.
What's up? I'm Tara Lenizak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. If you missed it over the weekend, AJ Green did not get good news on an injury he suffered during the Bengals' first training camp practice Saturday. An MRI revealed that Cincinnati's top wideout tore ligaments in his ankle, and according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. The Bengals practiced over the weekend at Welcome Stadium in Dayton, Ohio, as part of the NFL's 100th anniversary celebration. Apparently, there were major concerns regarding the subpar field conditions. Receiver Tyler Boyd described the field in Dayton as terrible and said, "I couldn't run any routes out there. I'm falling all over the ground. It was bad." Coach Zach Taylor, though, is not blaming the field for Green's injury, saying, "I don't think the turf had anything to do with it." It's another tough break for Green as injuries have gotten the best of him in recent years. He has missed a total of 13 games over the last 3 seasons, including 7 games last year with a toe injury. His fantasy stock takes a major hit as Schefter reports Green isn't expected to be ready for Cincinnati's regular season opener September 8th in Seattle.
Welcome back to The Sweat. Our NFL team previews are sadly concluding here at DraftKings, but that means they're pretty much done. A panel of DK Live writers and analysts went through all 32 teams, broke them down entirely, the booms, the busts, for the entire 2019 season, and our final team is tonight. Last but certainly not least, the Denver Broncos. Reed Fowler and Jeff Ulrich were not part of this panel, so they have fresh opinions. Don't look at it the other way around. They are part of this panel on The Sweat. Reed, the panel that you were not part of picks Phillip Lindsay as Denver's fantasy MVP for 2019. Agree with the pick?
Yeah, you have to read this question with hopefully some rose-colored lenses, and think that this Broncos team is going to be, I think, extremely bad. And so, having said that, yes, I do agree with the panel with this pick and Phillip Lindsay being the MVP. What we saw was an undrafted free agent do extremely well, obviously the 13th or 14th highest in terms of fantasy point producers at that running back position, and he played extremely well. And I think when you look at the strength of schedule from Denver, they have the second to only the Raiders in this upcoming season. So they're going to be down quite a bit. He's the better pass catcher than Royce Freeman. Freeman's getting a lot of buzz. Although Flacco doesn't necessarily check down a lot to his running backs, I think when you look at this guy, he's a solid RB2 and nothing more. And for the Broncos, that might be MVP type like season, because I just don't see any skill position doing much better than that. So yeah, I agree with this pick.
Jeff, agree with Phillip Lindsay being labeled team MVP for Denver?
Yeah, I mean, if there's going to be a big offensive year from someone on the Broncos, it's probably going to be from someone at the running back position. And, the thing about Lindsay is I'm not super high on him, but if you give me between Royce Freeman and Phillip Lindsay, I'm probably going to take Lindsay because he's a much better receiver. And when you add in the PPR factor, just the fact he was way more efficient on the ground than I think people realized or gave him credit for in preseason last year, towards the end of the year, obviously we saw it happen, then I think you have to kind of give him the edge. I do think that with this new coaching staff, though, coming in, Royce Freeman could be a very attractive option for them, especially trying to run out games at the end. Vic Fangio, a defensive-minded coach. And that kind of gets me to my second point. If the Broncos are going to be good this year, it might be the Broncos defense that's actually the fantasy MVP. Vic Fangio led the league-leading Bears defense last year. So I would probably take the Denver Broncos defense if I was choosing anyone. But offensively, yeah, I think it's got to be Lindsay or no one else.
For LVP, or we like to call least valuable fantasy player, or in other words, the most overvalued, the panel selects Mr. Elite, Joe Flacco. Are you too foreseeing a bad first year with the Broncos for Flacco, Jeff?
No one's drafting Joe Flacco. I mean, I guess he's going to be the least valuable player. Again, I know we have to have this argument all the time, but I think if I was actually drafting someone of the Broncos who might be drafted higher up and become a least valuable player, it would probably be Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, I think people forget he's almost 33 years old. I mean, he's not young anymore. He didn't just come into the league. He's not like a fresh-legged slot receiver. I mean, this guy's had injuries mounting up, and he's well into his 30s now. And now he's playing under a defensive-minded coach with Joe Flacco as his quarterback. Like, it's not set up for a big fantasy year for Emmanuel Sanders at all. So do I think Joe Flacco is going to be good for fantasy? No. But I think that Emmanuel Sanders is going to be the actual bust here for Denver.
Oh, good way to spin off the question. How about you, Reed? Are you in agreement with Jeff? I mean, if you don't like Joe Flacco, then to his point, it's going to affect everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, look, Flacco he has the dichotomy of being, well, bad real life quarterback, but half decent for his skill positions, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But he's right. Like, no one's drafting Joe Flacco. Maybe in like 2 QBs of those super flex leagues, you look at him and you potentially say that he's going to chuck it around because over the last 3 seasons, he's averaged under 40 attempts per game. And to Jeff's point, if the defense is going to be good, look, they have a decent defense, and they've always had a decent defense. But I think there's a range of possibilities where their defense isn't that great, and they're going to have to be playing from behind in a lot of games. He's going to chuck it around, and I get that. But having said that, yes, in terms of touchdowns, he's not high or elite at all. I think the most he's ever had was 27. That was back in 2014. And just if you look at 2018, I think a ton, if not more than half of the QBs had more than that. And that's his career high. So absolutely not. I don't think anyone's drafting him. But it has to be, and Jeff's right, Emmanuel Sanders at that slot position. They have Deshaun Hamilton, young rookie. He was rookie last year, his second-year guy. He performed in that position. And if Vic Fangio and this new team wants to come out and sort of revamp this offense, it's going to be with the rookies. And I agree with him on that point.
And finally, the panel likes Courtland Sutton to be the fantasy breakout star for the Broncos. On board with the panel here, Reed?
Not really. I can see it, and I think when you look at his pre-draft and talking about the NFL draft, he was one of those high prospects. He has all the talent in the world, needs some work, and we saw that. We saw that towards the end when he got vaulted into that number 1 position. It's extremely hard. Now, Case Keenum wasn't that great. I don't think Flacco was a step up from that, but I think it's going to be Noah Fant. If you look at Flacco's history with tight ends, he targets these tight ends a lot. Noah Fant is the best tight end. He's going to be the number 1, and he's going to jump over the guys like Jeff Uerman and Jake Butt, who are currently right now in that tight end room. He's going to be that guy even as a rookie. So I like his prospects. He's probably in the top 14 or 15 when you look at just tight end prospects coming in this fantasy draft. Because, again, they're going to be down a lot, and this guy has been known to catch the ball. So give me no offense to Courtland Sutton.
Jeff, you looking elsewhere from Sutton?
I mean, not necessarily. I think bringing Noah Fant is good, though, for discussion, because really, when you look at the Broncos, they have Courtland Sutton and Noah Fant, 2 guys that we should be getting excited about for fantasy purposes. But I sit here, and it's really hard for me to get excited about either, because we know Vic Fangio is going to run like a defensive first, try and grind it out kind of game plan. It's almost a guarantee. And then you have Joe Flacco, a quarterback for both these guys. So I just don't see how either of them can really get to like big fantasy seasons. I would probably give the edge to Sutton because he's such an immense talent, and he really does project out as a wide receiver 1. And we saw flashes from it last year when he was actually given like enough targets in a game, which didn't happen very much, especially with Case Keenum at quarterback. But if the situation does present itself, Courtland Sutton is going to have some big moments. I think Flacco is actually a better distributor than Keenum for him, which is good. He's got the big arm. He should at least be able to give him the chance at some jump balls down the field. So I have more faith in Sutton here, but I think it's going to be hit or miss throughout the year, and it's probably not going to be the season that people like me necessarily want to see from Courtland Sutton.
And the Broncos are going to be more DFS plays, right, throughout the season as opposed to season long. I don't think you're going out.
Very limited DFS plays.
Right, exactly. Like if there's an injury, like they could go towards DFS and try to stay away from these guys in season long.
Thus concludes our NFL team previews. Be sure to check these out on the DraftKings Playbook. You can also check them out on the DK social pages, on the DK Live. Go to the Watch tab. They're all there for you to consume and read. Also, want to remind you all, next Monday, August 5th, the Sweat will be doing a full breakdown of all Week 1 salaries. We talked about those earlier in this show, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 hour. Adam Levitan's going to be in the house, so a lot to chew on. As I mentioned before, we have more than a month to talk about these Week 1 salaries. But that was the concluding part of our NFL team preview. So major props to Reed and Jeff for all their contributions, golf, football, and everything. There are a ton of juicy nuggets from NFL training camps that are emerging, position competitions, injuries, holdouts, that whole bit. That is the focus of our chat with Mike Francesa. But first, before we get to Mike, here's Pat Mayo.
Anyone else you want to target here from the top? Because, like, you can make a very compelling case for a lot of these guys. I kind of targeted this as the spot where Spieth would win. So the 30 and below guys, like, do you want to touch Morikawa coming off a win at 18-1?
No, not at all.
Do you want Hideki at 14?
I would rather Hideki than Webb, but that is because I'm probably not all there.
Yeah, like the two that I would go with, like I'm going with Reed. I'm in on that one already at 22. Casey would be the other one just because that feels too low for him in this field.
Yeah. But then in the end, you got to pick one. It's like I'm going to pick
my guy,
to
Patrick
win
Reed.
the golf tournament.
If I'm still going all in on my FOMO guys this week, I might as well just chuck Patrick Reed onto the card.
Like, what do you like? Because I still think about how quickly Reed would have dusted Casey in a playoff if he didn't 3-putt on 18 at the Valspar 2 years ago.
Remember that too?
Would have dusted him, but doesn't matter. Like that's just me talking.
The worst part is accuracy-wise of all these guys near the top, and like I had mentioned, 6 of the past 8 winners have finished top 15 in the field in driving accuracy the week that they won. Reed and Snedeker were the 2 exceptions to that rule for the Wyndham Championship, but Snedeker, Reed, and Spieth all don't hit fairways, yet are still going to be completely live because they're so good out of the rough. And what if Jordan Spieth just has magic putter week?
I talk about this a lot with players I like or players that catch my eye. So I'm self-aware enough to know when I have to talk about it as it pertains to Jordan. When you're a player with talent, Jordan has talent. I can make my jokes and people can overstate my jokes because my claim from the beginning was always he's just not as good as these other guys that we are calling the best of the best. He's just not. I can't take his accomplishments away from them, but there's a level of magic beanery that I also can't ignore. That being said, he's a world-class player and he's making a ton of birdies. And he works hard.
He's turned into like Phil and
Yes,
Ricky.
but we talk about this. Phil before he won. Like there was like a 2-year period where he was like the most birdies on tour almost, or for the week. Like he was always near the leaders of birdies made.
Triple bogeys too. Also
everywhere,
the leader.
Everywhere, big numbers. But guys that are that talented and that good that have won before, the fix could literally be as small as like a fingernail. So, like, the smallest little thing can clean up their game, and the bogeys go away, and the birdies are still there. Now, it's extremely concerning when you're not seeing the birdies. When you're just, like, seeing trouble. You're like, I don't know, okay, maybe he can clean up the bogeys, but I don't have confidence that he can go low, even if he cleans up the bad stuff. Jordan cleans up that bad stuff, he's going low. And for our head-to-head, this is your last shot, and I'm worried about it.
No, it's not my last shot. I got 3 more tournaments. Wait till he wins the FedEx Cup. Just pulls a Bryson through the FedEx Cup.
This was the one.
This is the one I had pegged.
That we joked about when we made the bet.
That if Jordan plays this, he probably wins. And Cuss has picked him as his one and done.
All right, on to football. Eli Manning said earlier in training camp he's competing against the Giants' defenders, not Daniel Jones. Jones has looked good, but Eli has taken all the first-team snaps. Is Eli right? Is this his job for now?
He's competing against anything that can contribute to a Giant loss. Because what Eli's fighting against is obviously, number one, time. And secondly, what he's fighting against is the point where Gettleman and a head coach, basically in an effort to save their own rear ends, put the young quarterback in and talk about developing him to salvage something out of the season. Eli knows this. Eli lived this. When Eli was a rookie, the Giants sat Kurt Warner at 5-4. Kurt Warner could have taken that Giant team to the postseason, and he had a lot left. But the Giants felt it was time to see Eli. He knew he was their future. They apologized profusely to Warner, okay, and he understood the situation. He handled it very well. He was on my show every week in that time, and he really handled it brilliantly, and he handled it like a gentleman, but he had a lot of football left. Eli is in a different stage of his career. Eli wants very badly to play every game. So if that's going to happen, they're going to have to win right from the outset, and they're going to have to be a playoff team. If they can't stay ahead of the curve, wins and loss-wise, and that's going to mean a lot of people doing well who are going to be unexpected, then Eli's going to find the bench. It's not going to be based on anything except record, and there'll come a point if they're losing where they'll put Jones in. There's no question about it.
Well, this sets up the next question. Whoever starts at quarterback for the Giants, he'll be without Corey Coleman for the season, Sterling Shepard for at least the rest of camp, and then Golden Tate just got popped for 4 games due to suspension. Things not looking good for the G-Men's receiving corps, and it seems if Eli's the starter, he's set up for immediate failure.
Well, listen, they're gonna. I tweeted that they're gonna run the veer, but let's be honest. They have an improved offensive line finally. They have a very good tight end who is going to be their biggest threat in their passing game, and he can run the deep seam. And Eli's always thrown the deep seam great, especially off play action. And you're going to see a lot of Giant play action as they try to run the ball to keep their defense off the field, and also because the running part will be a very big part of their game. They're going to have to make a trade here for a wide receiver. They're going to have to find a disgruntled good one, or a team that has a surplus, and find and scout and find a good wide receiver. The one thing about that's a positive, there is no position that is more overstocked in the NFL than wide receiver.
All right, Le'Veon Bell is in camp with the Jets. Most reports saying he doesn't look overly rusty. One Jet who is excited to see him is wide receiver Robbie Anderson, who said last week he thinks he and Bell can be one of the better wide receiver running back tandems in the league. Is that a little too much confidence from a guy who hasn't had a 1,000-yard receiving season?
Yeah, it's way too much confidence. Bell and anybody can be really good together because Bell's really good. I mean, Bell's a jerk. I don't like him. I don't like him having him. I wouldn't want to really have him on my team because I think he's a selfish me guy. But he's a very, very talented. He's one of the top 3 backs in all-around play. He's one of the top 3 backs in the sport. He's a very talented player. He'll be very good to Sam Darnold. The one thing Jets have to do is upgrade their offensive line. Jets have more gameplay. Jets have more mismatches for people than people think. Anua, Anderson, Bell. The Jets are going to be better on offense than people think as long as the offensive line cooperates. That's what I'm worried about. I'm really worried about the Jets, especially the tackle position.
It's unfortunate because I feel we're always due for a bad injury in training camp. A.J. Green is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with torn ligaments in his ankle. Injury happened at the Bengals practice at Welcome Stadium in Dayton, Ohio. The Bengals were practicing there as part of the NFL's 100th anniversary celebration. The field conditions were terrible, according to Bengals wideout recently paid Tyler Boyd. It seems like the NFL has this issue every preseason, Mike, whether it's in the Hall of Fame game or something else. Is this yet another bit of ammo for the argument just to shorten the preseason?
Yeah, listen, I think the players would like it. I think but they don't want 18 games, though. I mean,
yeah.
They're still adamant about not having 18 games. The owners only want to have 2 preseason games now, but they want 18 regular season games played over 2 bye weeks during the season and then 18 games. I don't think we'll see it. There's no appetite for it from what I understand. I think there's an impasse there, but it's terrible. You know, as a kid once, Joe Namath got hurt in preseason and was out for the season. There's nothing that impacts your team more than seeing one of your big stars go down in preseason and realize that your season just took a complete hit before the season even started. So, yes, training camp injuries are unbelievably devastating. They really are. And that's why you have to be very leery with how much you play your big stars in preseason. It's just not worth the risk. It really isn't.
And there are stars that are holding out, including a couple of running backs, currently Zeke Elliott, Melvin Gordon, to name a few. I know we just talked about Le'Veon Bell and he got a payday, but does holding out ever work out for a player, generally speaking?
It can. It did for Emmitt Smith. I mean, what happens is your team has to perform badly. Emmitt held out. The Cowboys lost their first 2 games. He got what he wanted. If the team responds and goes 2-0, you got to go back in with your tail between your legs. So you basically are rolling the dice. Does the owner win? Does the player win? If the team loses, the player wins. If the team wins, the owner wins. That's what it usually comes down to. Which one is the one who's needed more? So it can work. It's a 50-50 deal. It's basically based on the performance of the team. But it works a lot more with the quarterback than it does with the running back. It only works with the running back in very, very special cases. Elliott is one of those cases. He is the heart and soul of the Cowboy attack.
Almost at the finish line on this Monday edition of The Sweat. We take you to the top of the hour. We are wrapping with MLB showdown picks. The Dodgers and Rockies and NL West clash. Available in showdown mode on DraftKings, 8:40 p.m. Eastern. First pitch in Colorado. DK Live's James McCool and Matt LaMarca of the Action Network are back. To nobody's surprise, Cody Bellinger is the contest's most expensive player at $11,000. He's been pretty underwhelming though lately, batting 182 over his last 10, averaging 7.2 DK points per game, about 4 points lower from his season average. James, Bellinger going to break out and have a huge game at hitter-friendly Coors tonight?
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to guarantee a breakout here. I don't think that's something that I'm willing to do. But I mean, even with him being underwhelming, he still has an X-slugging percentage of 603 and an XWOB of 409 in this split. I mean, it's been more bad luck than anything in terms of contact that he's making. He's definitely not at his regular season levels, but everybody kind of goes through slumps. And if his slump is going to be 7.4 DraftKings points per game and he gets to play in Coors against a pitcher that has problems against lefties, I don't know, man. I think I'm fine using him. At $11K, it's a high price to pay. I probably won't captain him, but I definitely want to try to get him in my lineups.
And just as a note, before I go to LaMarca, Charlie Blackmon out of the lineup for the Rockies, and he's the third most expensive player on this slate. So, LaMarca, your turn. Bellinger, breaking out or what?
It's hard not to like him today. If you look at his numbers, I'm not a huge BVP guy, but he has absolutely destroyed John Gray throughout his career, 9 for 14 with a bunch of extra base hits. He's got an OPS of over 1,700 against him. So, I think that he's definitely a viable play. I'm a little bit down on the Dodgers offense in tonight's contest, but certainly Bellinger is a strong candidate to pay up for it.
Those of you who are new or unfamiliar, the captain spot in Showdown gets you 1.5 times the points, but a player in that spot also has his salary bumped times 1.5. So who would you put there tonight, LaMarca? Back to you.
Yeah, so I can already James is going to call me crazy for this, but I think that I am captaining John Gray tonight. He's the rare pitcher who actually is better at Coors Field than elsewhere. His ERA is significantly better at home this season than on the road. He shut the Dodgers down the last time that he faced them at Coors, and his StatCast data from his past 3 starts is pretty impressive, limiting batters to a fly ball rate of just 25%. So if you could do that, you have a good chance of providing value. The fact that he's only 8K as a starting pitcher, I think, is pretty appealing. And I don't think that anybody's going to really turn to him tonight because the Dodgers have an implied team total of 7. So I like John Gray. I think that he's going to be a contrarian option, but I think that he has pretty nice upside even in a really tough matchup.
McCool, are you not happy with LaMarca?
All right, no, because I'll one-up you here, and I'll say that you should captain Kenta Maeda in your DraftKings GPPs. As good as John Gray has been, especially at home, Kenta Maeda's been fantastic over his last month of starts. He's got a 69% 2K percentage, which means, for those who don't know, 69% of the times that he's in an at-bat, while it is a very nice number, it also means that he's getting to a 2-strike count or a pitcher's count in those at-bats. So it gives him a better chance to get a strikeout. It gives him a better chance to have a lower WOBA on the pitches that he throws in terms of what the batter puts out. Also, the Rockies are one of the highest adjusted strikeout rates on this slate in terms of the splits over the last month, striking out 46% of the time in those 2-strike counts. So those two things put together makes me think that Kenta Maeda has a really good chance to get a lot of strikeouts here, and he's done it before. We know that he's a high strikeout pitcher, so I like using him in the captain spot, and I don't think that John Gray is that crazy either.
All right, I got 3 more questions for you. We have about 90 seconds. If you plan on rostering stars, we need some cheap players in the lineup. So which players under 6,500, give me 1 or 2, do you like, James?
I'll just give you 1, Will Smith. Just put him in your lineups.
LaMarca?
I'll go Raimel Tapia, but you could also go with a reliever if you want to get a little frisky.
All right, and feel free to give some context. We're running out of time. Are there any players in this contest, Dodgers, you don't like tonight in this contest and would absolutely not play in your lineups? Matt, you first.
I'm staying away from Max Muncy at 10,600. He's really expensive, and his StatCast data from his past 15 days is bad. Hard hit rate of just 26%, not hitting the ball in the air particularly much. So I think that he's the one guy that I think is a really not a strong play at his price tag.
McCool, who's your no-no?
Yeah, I'd go with Tony Wolters. He's the cheapest player on the slate, and it's for good reason. His StatCast data is really, really bad. He's hitting at a 0% expected home run per plate appearance rate right now over the last month, and I just don't want to take somebody who doesn't have upside.
Okay, slate-approved pick from each of you, please. This 7-game night slate.
I'm going to go with Mike Trout.
And LaMarca.
All the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay, excellent. The Sweat airs weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m. We will see you tomorrow night. Thank you all for joining us.